pitch deck, okay? And I actually started calling it how not to pitch wrong, because there is no right way to pitch it, but there is definitely a wrong way to pitch it. Got a clicker, it's really cool, it's the first time I'm using it. So I want to actually start off by, first of all, explain to you guys why I think you should listen to me. And the highlights of that and what makes me qualified to speak here is, first of all, I've seen thousands of pitches, okay, during my very short time in a VC and here in the Valley and advising a lot of companies and going through the process myself. I've seen the pitches from both sides of the table. As a VC being pitched to, okay, people grabbing for money from, asking me to buy into their idea. And so I've seen everything, and I've also been on the other side pitching to VCs, asking for money, and I actually found somebody who was willing to give us some. So that was successfully side of it. And I also helped others to raise funds through advising them on their investment strategy and everything that I said. So the initial round. So that's why I think I'm qualified to actually talk about this. I'm going to talk about a lot of my personal experience. So you'll see some of the stuff here that is sort of standard, but there are a lot of my interpretations and my experience of and how I recommend of doing it, because I've seen a lot of people talking about pitches, but actually they don't have experience in pitching, and I think I actually have a bit more experience than they do. So so that's what you see here. A few disclaimers, so a few disappointments. Okay, this class is about the content design of the pitch. Okay, it's not about the delivery, and that these are two different things. Okay, you'll see people delivering, telling you to walk and telling you to play with their voice and what to dress. That's not what I'm here about. I'm here about how to design the pitch, how to focus on the story, and emphasize what's important, how it's right to articulate it in a way that investors will understand it. I'll be using a lot of cliches, okay, because it's a general class, so I apologize in advance. You will not see a perfect pitch here. Okay, there is no such thing as a perfect pitch, but there are a few examples. I think this is what's going to make this class very interesting. As a few examples that stand out from my experience in the pitches that I've seen. There is no right or wrong. There is a lot of common sense. So everything I'm going to tell you, you're going to say, of course. I mean, that's common sense, but you haven't thought of it on yourself, okay, or you haven't given it a name. And until you do that, actually that didn't sit inside your head and you can articulate it in a way that you can use it. So there's no magic here. Everything will be logical. I'm definitely not a guru, and I'm focusing, this is also very important to understand, I'll be focusing on the seed stage funding, which I think that's 99% of you, maybe excluding Laura, if I remember correctly, no? Seed as well, okay, so, because this is a round that is the most difficult round, and I think is the one where everybody struggles. Once you raise a seed round, it's just the investors that bring in the second round. The Series A is basically not led, it's not really led by you, and the story is not, you just divide it a bit differently, but it's basically the same story from your seed round. And even after you hear it, you'll hear it all, it will still be hard for you guys to execute on that, okay? My recent deck the deck we used took us about 2 months to develop, and it was terrible. From my point of view. But there are no shortcuts. You have to go through the entire process of actually doing it. Rules of engagement, okay? I'll give you the slides in the end, minus a few slides, the first 8 slides, no questions, okay? You'll see that no question sign up there in the corner. But once it disappears, okay, feel free to ask me, to interrupt me and ask me any question, because I want this class to be much more interactive than it usually is. And I think if you wait to the end, it's going to be an hour from now, the questions won't matter. And even if I open it up, okay, please, let's try to maintain 5 minutes on each topic, okay, so that we can still maintain a framework of time to finish on time. Okay, so this is something that a lot of people don't understand. When I ask you, so what do you need a pitch for? They say, of course, to raise money. I said, no, you don't raise money with a pitch. Okay, you raise money with your story, with your relationship, with everything, okay? The pitch is just the tool to get you to the next level, which is usually the face-to-face meeting, okay? And once you understand this, this will help you sort of give a scope to what you want. So Raju asked me earlier, so how deep do I go into the presentation? I said, well, as deep as you need in order to get to the next meeting or to the next question, or, okay? So this is something that is very important. That's why I'm opening up with it. What are the types? What sort of tools? There are a lot of variations of the pitch, okay? And I think this is something very important to understand, okay? A lot of people only have this, okay? They only have a 15-minute pitch, okay? The 14 slides, 12 to 14 slides, and it has a lot of text in it because they send it out to everybody. But actually, you notice you already had the 2-minute exercise. The 30-second pitch is basically your tagline, your one-liner, whatever. Okay, that's a 30-minute pitch. It's a very hard one to do. The 5-minute pitch, which is the short version of this one, which leaves a lot of questions for Q&A. Okay, that's the Q&A one, oriented one. And there is the most important one is actually your discussions. Okay, because this is the one that really matters. Okay, you won't raise money with this one or with this one. You'll raise money once you actually talk about your company, and people will say, okay, so tell me what you do, how you do it. So what are your metrics? What are blah, blah, blah. Okay, this is something that is very important to understand. On the deliverable side, there's the 1-pager, the 5-slider, the 12-slider, and the 12-slider email version. Okay, the difference between those two is just this one has more text, and this one has very limited text. And these are the 1-pager, you know, that's the, people ask you, can you send me your 1-pager? So you need a 1-pager, which is a summary of everything. And the 5-slider, that's the tricky one, okay? These are sort of the exhibition style presentations. When you go to a competition or you go to a pitch event, this is where you usually find the 5-pager, okay? One common and very typical mistake I see a lot of people do is they start with this one, and then they sort of delete the text and they come up with this one, and then they delete a few slides, they come up with this one, and the 1-pager is just they just copy paste a few slides onto one page because they just, okay, that's not the way to go about it. If you ask me what's the right way to go about it, you start with the 12-slider, with the 12-slide presentation, you add the text to get the email version, and the 5-slider, these are completely different variations of it, okay? But once you have a lot of experience pitching this one, these will come very easy, okay? But you start with this one, not with this one, okay? Because otherwise, it will all look messed up, okay? It will look like you just deleted and everything won't make sense. But if you do it this way, it will. So the secret of a good pitch is it's all about the story, okay? So people think, if I say the right word, okay, if I show the right slide, if I design the slide better, would this have gotten me the next meeting? No, okay, it's not about the pitch. The pitch is just the means to deliver the content, but it's not the content. The content is the king here. And what really is interesting, you need to understand the life of a VC, how his daily routine looks like, okay? And once you do that, you will see the things very differently, and you'll get a lot of points during the SLP program where you exhibit this, okay? And the most important thing is to understand is that the VC have seen everything, and they've seen it multiple times, sometimes multiple times in the same day, okay? My routine, daily routine in Octopus when I was there was I would go through between 10 to 15 cold email presentations. I would have to go through them, okay? Sometimes I would spend a minute and a half, sometimes I would spend 10 minutes on a deck, okay? That was my quota for the day. I would meet or go or have face-to-face presentations or coffee with entrepreneurs about twice a day, and other meetings about, you know, talking to the team, explaining to them what kind of companies I think we should move forward, or these interesting companies I saw. I went to this event, and this was an interesting company we should keep an eye on. But basically, on a daily basis, 5 days a week, I would see about 20 companies. Okay? There is no such thing as an original idea. There is no such thing as I never heard this before. Okay? It's just catching my attention to the point where I can understand it and I can articulate it to the rest of the team, because that's my job. I would hate companies that I would have to sit and analyze the diagram and understand what they're doing. Okay, 99% of the, maybe not 99, but there was a very, more than 50% of the time I wouldn't understand what the company's actually doing. Okay, so it's all about the story. What I sort of sub-labeled it in why should I keep reading or listening to that guy? Because this is something very important. I see a lot of guys coming up to me with a PowerPoint presentation where the entire diagrams are made with word art. I hate word art, and every time I would see something like that, this would immediately create that bad impression that this guy is too cheap to pay for a designer, or he doesn't have the Photoshop skills in order to build this, or he doesn't really understand that I'm seeing so many presentations that it's boring. Okay, and now I cannot help it. Okay, I'm biased towards not investing in boring companies. Okay, so and it applies the same for a pitch. Okay, if somebody comes in and he said, my company is building the latest generation of bots, and I'm sorry. Okay, even if you're the next Mark Zuckerberg, it's going to be very difficult for me to buy into it, because I need to take this excitement that I get from you and transfer it to the rest of the team, and that already creates that degree of separation, which if you haven't energized me, I won't be able to energize the other guys. Okay, so this is a very important thing. And what is it comprised of? Is it cool? And I'll talk about the cool factor. This is a very important thing. No investor likes to invest in boring companies. They want to have, when you go to their portfolio site, they want to have the best looking logos, the most amazing names, and everybody wants, there was this company, Datasys, I think was their name. I can't remember the name. Something like Datasys. And they didn't get any traction. And then they changed their name to Tickle. And they were exploding. 48 hours later, they were exploding. Okay, and this is exactly the difference. What a VC or an investor looks like. He doesn't want to invest in a company called Datasys or something like that. But Tickle, Snapchat, Facebook, that's the cool factor. It is very important to have, and you'll see it in the presentations that I'm going to show you. Who's selling it? Okay. Does he know what he's selling? By the way, just one. The reason everything is written here is because, first of all, I have a lot of memories, and I was trying to articulate them, and I don't want to miss anything. That's why it's written in I'm reading the slides. And the second thing is I want to give you the slides and be able to recollect what I'm saying. So I was thinking about you. So that's not the way to build a pitch deck, but it's a good way to hand out slides. So let's go back to it. So who is selling it? Does he know what he's talking about? Expertise, okay? Having an engineer build a rocket engineer building a social network, or the other way around, some art major building bots. Why? Why should you be the one to do that? But if it's an ex-Googler who built Gmail and now is building the next Gmail, that's the guy I want to invest in, okay? So this is something that sometimes you cannot control it, but you need to know where your forces are and where your weaknesses are. And this is something that is very, when they say, let's look at the team, okay? This is what they're looking for, okay? Who is telling it, and does he know what he's talking about, okay? The next issue is it real? You need to prove to the guy who's listening that this is not only a pitch deck, okay? That you're not trying to raise money with a presentation. These Cinderella stories where you hear about somebody who came into a VC, pitched for 3 minutes with a PowerPoint and nothing else and raised $10 million, these stories are either lies or you don't know the whole picture, you don't know the whole story. So this guy who came in, so the first week when I came to the fund, that's a funny story. We had this guy come in, had a PowerPoint pitch, and we paid him 5 million pounds. Okay, it's about almost $7.5 million. And I said, guys, come on. What's the company? He said, there is no company. That's his idea. We're funding his idea. I said, yeah, but what? He said, you don't know the guy. I mean, is this guy worth 5 million pounds? I said, no, look, this guy, we invested in his previous company, and he exited and made us 100 million pounds, okay? And he sat in the offices just before you arrived for 6 months, developing his next idea. This is his pitch for the next idea, okay? And if we won't invest in this company, we would look like fools because he made us so much money, and he's been an entrepreneur in resident for our fund. And if we're not going to fund him, everybody's going to say we're fools. And so we had to give him money. But the story that everybody tells is this guy raised $5 million on a PowerPoint deck, okay? And now all the first-time entrepreneurs say, I can do it too. I'm amazing. Aren't I amazing? My mother said that I'm the smartest guy on earth, right? So why shouldn't I be the same guy, okay? This is the truth, okay? If you don't have anything, don't waste your time, okay? So is it real? The thing here is that you have to prove it. You have to show. You have to signal. If you did an MBA, one of the strongest things that I took from my MBA program was the signaling. Some companies can do stuff that others can't. That's called signaling, okay? You need to signal that you can do stuff that others can't, and the presentation needs to articulate this, okay? The final thing is execution, okay? Can they pull it off, okay? I don't know how to prove execution besides actually doing it, okay? But that's hindsight. As a seed fund, you're actually coming in without. But I don't know. I can't tell you the best way of doing it, but you need to be able to articulate this. And the second and most important thing, and a lot of people don't get this, okay? Investors don't invest in products. They don't invest in services. They invest in growth. I'm going to say it again. They invest in growth, okay? Now I'm going to ask you, what does it mean to invest in growth?
Something that is going to
Be big.
produce good revenues and be very scalable.
Good. How much revenue? How much is growth in a VC term?
10x.
10x. What about 7x?
No, not in VC.
Okay, not in VC. Okay. Actually, 7x would be okay. 2x?
No.
Okay. The rule of thumb for me is, if you talk in X's, you're on the right. You should go to talk to VC. If your growth is, you articulate your growth or you describe your growth in X, go to and talk to a VC. If you describe it in percentages, go to the bank, ask for debt.
Isn't it also amount of money? They're concerned about the amount of revenue too?
Well, some VCs will put $100 million in a company. Some VCs will put $100,000 in a company. You need to find the right VC, and that's your investment strategy, to define the right VC that will invest in your sector, in your stage, in a company like you, in a person like you, and you have good connections and good introductions to this guy. Otherwise, it's just a waste of time, okay? Because I've seen 100 people like you the last month. And that's something you need to understand, okay? And I've seen this mistake over and over again. People are pitching their product. I don't care about the product. You're gonna redesign it 10 times, you're gonna move to a different space, you're gonna move to a different vertical, you're gonna transition your product, your offering from a product to a service, okay? I don't care. I wanna see the team, and I wanna see the growth, okay? And this is something that needs to be articulated in your pitch deck. Okay, so this is the SVTK version of the structure of the pitch deck. And there's a lot of logic in this, okay? The reason this is called a template is because this is what people expect to hear. And the funny thing is that, everybody thinks they're special. They say, okay, this is a template. I want to be unique. I'm going to go off template, okay? Because my business is unique. That's the first time I heard about this, okay? And I want to articulate how unique I am and how cool I am, and that's why I'm going to go off template. And what it does is that it makes it uncomprehendable by an investor that hears 10 presentations a day. You're expecting him to go out of his way to hear you and understand you better, okay? And so stick to this, okay? And if you're going off template, have an absolutely amazing reason to do that. And the template is as follows. One slide for everything besides product, and I'll explain why. Actually, because it's the product. One slide for problem, solution. That's pretty easy, right? What's the problem? What's the pain? Okay, and how I'm solving the pain. The product, people sometimes confuse solution with the product. Okay, the solution is not the product. Okay, the product is the service or is the features or the value proposition of what you're offering. The solution is the way you're doing it. Okay, and I'll show you a few examples of that. The product that's all you're going to talk about your entire product in your entire deck. So out of 14 slides, 12 to 14 slides, you're going to talk about 10 to 15% of your time on your product, okay? If you talk more than that, I think you're missing out on the rest, okay? And the rest describes the growth. Everything here, besides these two slides, the product, okay, 1 or 2 slides, describe the growth of the business, okay? And that's where you want to focus, okay? Market and size, people confuse and think it's market size. No, it's market. What market am I addressing? Who's my customer? Okay, and size is how big it is, and this is also a lot of confusion around this. Go-to-market is how am I going to, especially in the seed fund, how am I going to get to my first customer? Okay, this is something that is very difficult. I actually couldn't find a good enough example that I was willing to show here. It's very difficult. This is one of the most difficult things to do, and we struggle with that because sometimes it's very difficult to get the first customer. Business model, or more, as JP said, the revenue model, competition, roadmap, very important slide, financial growth, the team, and the ask. Okay, should be no more than between 12 to 14 slides. Okay, otherwise you just lose and waste time from the Q&A session. Now I'm going to switch into, in depth on each of these topics, okay? And this is where the class becomes interactive, okay? When I said, prove to me that it's real, show traction. Okay, that's the best way to prove that it's real. Okay, as I said, interactive. Feel free to ask any questions you want. 5 minutes from now on each topic. So I've combined problem and solution because they're one and the same. Okay, sometimes called pain and cure or whatever. But basically, the problem. This slide is. This is an icebreaker. Okay, this is not. I wouldn't say it's a really important slide, but it sets the context for the rest of the discussion. And so, in the problem, you talk about the context and the reference point for the rest of your story, and the solution is your unique approach to that. Okay, the biggest trap that I see here is people they want to describe a big enough problem, very big problem, and that's actually exactly the opposite of what you need to do. You need to show something very specific, something very focused. That when they say you lack focus, okay, you probably heard this a lot of the times that you pitched, and this is because you talked about everything. So, for example, global warming. That's a real pain, right? But nobody can solve global warming with a startup that is not funded, okay? Especially if you're a first-time entrepreneur. But if you say that car emissions cause greenhouse effects, and your solution talks about how to decrease the amount of emissions, that's the difference between describing a big problem versus something that makes your story much more relevant. Okay, and I recommend solving one problem at a time.
So on our business model canvas, it's pretty clear that there can be more than one customer, which means that there's more than one pain or cure. How do you want us to address that in this kind of a case?
So you need to anticipate the questions that you're going to be asked and what you're going to be challenged in your presentation. You're going to have, and the logic that I think is the prevailing one here is that you are struggling with everything at this point. You have no fund, you have no team, you have no time, you have no experience, you have no customers, you have nothing. Okay? You're going to struggle so much solving one problem. Why do you try and go after two? Okay? So you just stretch your resources even more, and your attention is. I think that's the problem. Okay? Focus prevails.
Just wanted to add to that. Business model canvas is a tool that you see that send out an email. That's used to run a set of experiments. simply the landscape that says, as of today, this is what you think your business opportunity is. Then you design experiments to go and test it out, different hypotheses. So you end up with creating a bunch of business model canvases, and then you zero in on the most promising. You might find two that have the most compelling problem or related problem. You've got to pick one, as he's saying, but then you show that if you solve this, this leads to a bigger opportunity. But you've got to be able to right-size your ability with the opportunity.
So focus always wins, okay? If you have no resources, you can only focus. You have to prioritize, and focus is the answer, okay? That's the logical outcome of this entire debate, eventually. And another very interesting thing that I see a lot between the relationship between the problem and solution is that the solution doesn't solve the problem. Okay, if somebody says global warming is a problem, solution, grow hydroponics. Okay, yeah, I mean, there is some sort of relationship between that, but it's not a direct solution. Okay, I want to see a direct relationship between the problem and solution, and I'll show you a good example of it. So this is a slide, like one of the examples of an SLP fellow from last year. And he came to me, or actually he sent this email out to everybody. He said, this is my pitch deck, can you please comment on it, okay? And it was about 45 slides long. And this is this is his first slide, okay? Pain, okay? The biggest challenge facing banks, survey of senior bankers. One question, 87, 97, you're convinced, right? But that was the second slide. Okay, 84. 80. Just reading this, it's already the 2 minutes that I spent on the deck. Okay, so this was the third slide. Okay, proof of all the survey. There is proof. Okay, and you cannot understand anything. Okay, I remind you, he sent this to us via email, and this was the fourth slide. Okay, he wrote something and then marked it out. And this just creates an impression, okay? Forget about the content, just the impression. This is what I'm talking about. Is it compelling? Is it cool? This is not cool, okay? This is not compelling, this is boring, and this is PowerPoint, okay? Red X on red text in a slide that's called, problem, which is the fourth slide already of this. This is actually one of my favorites, okay? A company that basically is doing remittance, okay? Everybody knows what remittance, I didn't know when I read this. I actually looked it up, and English is not my first language. So money transfer, they describe the problem, okay? Money transfers are slow, confusing, and expensive, okay? Statement. And now he describes how slow is it? It's 3 days in delivery time. How expensive or how confusing is it? There are hidden fees and unknown destination amounts. And how expensive is it? It costs about 20 pounds, up to 5% of the actual amount, and another text here, which doesn't matter. And this is his solution. Proprietary digital solution with no international payments. And he says, a small diagram of how this works. And this is very simple. This is the fee. This is the markup. Okay, and I think there was somewhere that it said there was 2 days or 1 day. Okay, can't remember where it was. Yeah, next business day. Okay, so next business days solves this. Okay, the fees are not confusing, and they're not hidden. This solves this, and this also solves this. So the amount is actually cheaper. So that's what I'm saying. A very simple and great and beautifully articulated this problem with a solution that solves exactly that. Okay? I think this is a great example. Okay, any questions about problem solutions? I think this slide is actually a masterpiece. Just one interesting point. After we worked, I sat down with this person and redesigned this slide, and we came up with a one sentence problem definition. And what I came up with was banks are plagued with legacy systems. Okay, that was the problem definition. Okay, that was a statement. It was clear. It has a biblical term in it, which makes it very big, and I think that made all this go away. Okay, product, service, okay, or service, whatever. By the way, this is the only place in the slide in the deck that you'll see red. Okay, because I feel very strongly about this every time. I'm proven right every time. It's just beautiful. So this slide is where you sort of describe your product. Okay, these are your 30 seconds to tell the people what your actual product is, but it's not really, make it count, because you won't talk about your product anymore after that slide. Okay, so you should describe what you do, what the main value propositions of your product are. You can go into features, but don't do it too much. Very, very importantly, don't do live demos. They always fail, always. And not, even if they don't fail, you miss the momentum that you build up, okay? Because the computer is never quick enough to load, the app never downloads, the connection always falls. It never works. And even if it works, you lose the momentum, okay? So this is a very important, I feel very strongly about it. It's in red. And also a big problem, it's not a sales pitch, okay? You're not selling the product. They don't care about the product. Trust me, they don't care, okay? They invest in the business and not in the product. And my recommendation about this slide is either going with the 1, 2, 3 approach, which means sign up, post, sell, okay? Amazon, okay, or eBay. So that's the 1, 2, 3 approach. Or the diagram of the process, okay? You can show a diagram. I'll show you a few nice diagrams, and or show the screenshots of your product if it's really, really compelling, okay? And usually at this point, you don't have a UX, UI designer, and the product is pre-beta and looks pretty mock-up. It doesn't look good, so be careful of that. This is a great example, okay? Yes, Kalpan.
Question, what about a video showing the service that you're doing, or a video showing it? Yeah, no videos, but I'm saying, you're showing like,
The answer is no. No video.
no video.
No video. It will never work. This is a great example of a 1, 2, 3. Just saying. You book, we collect, we store, we deliver. Okay. Very catchy, very easy to understand. Those guys do, basically, their tagline I think was cloud storage for your physical stuff. Okay. Very nice. Okay. And this is their product screen slide, okay? I took it from their website because they updated it from when I had their pitch, but same thing, okay? Beautiful. This is how your products, I think this is a perfect example. This is my invention, okay? The DB1, okay? It has a diagram, a business model metric, and a 1, 2, 3 as well, okay? And this is, as you can see from Chrome Systems, this is my company, and this is a slide that I had. I don't like the slide, but I think it serves the process well. It explains our products. It has the metrics in here because we always get this question. Okay, so what are your metrics? Okay, we cover ourselves like we measure kilometers covered. Okay, what does it mean for you? A kilometer covered? Oh, that's 5 of this product, 1 of this product, 2 of these products, and that's basically our business model as well. And the metric, and this is the 1, 2, 3. We act, then we detect. It's the other way around. We designed it. So you detect the threat, you verify it, and then you act upon it. Okay, that was our approach. This is the email version of it. Okay. Yeah. Any questions about the product service slide?
One point, especially the Guy Kawasaki generally push is like never put anything below 32 size fonts. Like
so me and Guy Kawasaki are exactly at the opposite spectrums of the pitching methodologies. I think he has much more credibility than I have. He's done more, but I don't think his pitch will work when you go and pitch to investors. It's going to be difficult for you unless you are so amazingly Steve Jobs, mesmerizing. I agree to put a one-word slide, but I'm challenging you to do that. Okay, I think that's what I think the problem with Guy Kawasaki's approach is that it's impractical.
Okay.
Okay, it will work for him because he's mesmerized, but it won't work for everyone.
Yeah,
That's my
means I had the same point of one guy from Silicon Valley Angels was giving the presentation, and he said that won't work. You have to, you should have something with a lot of details.
So I'm challenging Kawasaki on this, but I'm the underdog here. He has much more experience than I have, and probably raised more money than I
There's
have.
a question here.
So the secret of good pitch, you didn't mention, is it real?
Yeah.
Can these guys pull it off? So, and you say no live demos, videos, so some things which are kind of very research, and you want to
So we show the picture. We show the picture of our product at the border. Okay, and we have a news article that you saw. I posted it all over the world. That they covered us, and we showed the news article. Okay, the picture of the news article. Okay, that says it all for us.
Continuation to his question, your doubts on technology problems, whether you don't show the videos and demos, or just it doesn't sink in with the presentation?
So I answered that as well. Okay, even if it works, you lose momentum. Okay, the time it takes to go to the computer, to find the pointer of the mouse. Okay, to click, for the computer to load, assuming you connected to the Wi-Fi at the investor's place. Yeah. These are so many variables, and it always fails. Always.
Besides, I think 2 points to make, right? Your goal in the pitch is to convince them about the business and the growth. Why would you rattle down about technology and all of that? You don't want to do that. You want to focus on the value delivered by all of that secret sauce and all that. And second thing is, many times they say, people describe screenshots and so on, but they never actually talk about what the product is. So if it's a website, is it a mobile app, is it some kind of a setup? You got to be able to depict that somehow. Like in that picture, I can visualize what the product or the service is going to look like once deployed. It's very important, right? To do that in a way that doesn't get caught up in the technical details, but at least define it.
Okay. Market sizing. Okay, but how to do it the wrong way. Okay, so I did a sort of a market sizing example of how somebody would market size my market. Okay, Chrome Systems market. We are in the border security market. So we go to Google, we type in border security market. The second hit has, it says global homeland security market worth 544 billion by 2018. Okay, I mean I got it here. I mean how lucky am I? Okay, and then I go design a slide and say border security market size. I go MBA on it and I say total addressable market is 544 billion and 0.2. That's still 20 million. It's a lot. And the serviceable addressable market, whatever, is 200 billion. Why? Because I read it and I know that my niche or my specific vertical has a bit less, and I want to get 1% of the market because I'm realistic. I'm going optimistic scenario. Okay, and that's 2 billion. It has billion in it. That's why it's a good market. Okay, that's exactly the wrong way. And I want to see a show of hands. How many people actually, when they did that slide, did it that way? Okay, one. Just one honest guy. Two honest guys. 3, 4. Okay, 5. Okay, I see. That's exactly the wrong way to do market sizing. Okay, this is the corporate approach. This is when Cisco wants to understand what the market trends are, and if it's worth building a new building and hiring another 50,000 people. That's what they do. Okay, but a startup cannot address a $544 billion market. It doesn't work. Okay, so how do you do that? So I've broken it down. So market and size. The market is who your customer is. It's very important. Okay, focus is the key here. You need to know exactly the person. There is a wrong way of doing it and a right way of doing it. The wrong way of doing it is go to males between 18 and 24 that are tech savvy, and this is the wrong way of identifying the market. This is again, L'Oreal is this is how they're profiling who will be their next candidate for the next perfume. but we need to understand, you need to create the persona, okay? You'll have a class about how to identify a customer, how to build a persona. This is the way you identify, okay? And size is, and this is the first point here, revenue versus transaction. The $544 billion, does anybody know or understand what this number represents?
Total spend.
Exactly. The revenues of all the companies in the world that are in their what's it called?
That are traded in US dollars or equivalent, but
yeah, but they define themselves in these public sectors. They have I forgot the name of the system, Bloomberg. They have to define. They have these definitions. So they have to define what their category is. So they go to Bloomberg, see all go to that category, and now filter revenue. Okay, aggregate all the revenue, and that's 544 million. Okay, but how does that translate into your business model? How are you going to monetize on that? How are you going to take a share? It doesn't work like this. Okay, and so I think the revenue approach is bullshit. Okay, this is the corporate way of doing it. The startup approach is transaction. You need to articulate or to communicate to your investor how many transactions you can get your hands on. Once you understand what that means, this is very powerful, okay? Because it not only shows size, it shows insight. And I think insight into your business or your space or your expertise, your domain, this is what will get you through. This is what, in the initial, when I said team, do they know what they're talking about? This is it, okay? The insight into the business, okay? So the transactional approach is what I recommend, okay? Target and geography are just very well important, okay? Don't go globally. I like to show big markets and then say, in the US alone, okay? This leaves, it's like, or else. It's a very powerful statement. Sorry, yes, Laura.
So all of these transactional estimates are going to have a dose of reality and a dose of optimism. Where do you fall on this spectrum?
Anything you can reference and verify. Anything you can reference and verify. If somebody will question, I don't think the market, nobody will ever question you, but if somebody will question you, you have this source, and put it in such a small font that nobody will know, nobody will question you. Put a blog there that somebody, you know.
So Tommy, I think one thing is if you had the assumptions of your transaction spent out book year or revenue, because that is what people look for, right?
Say again?
The assumptions, it's not the final dollars of money, it's what are you assuming in your model?
Yeah, and I'll show you some examples
And
here.
just to add to that, the assumptions are important, that they are the calculations behind the number. That's where the business model experiment also come in. When you're validating, when you're out there verifying what dollar value is it worth somebody, that's one signal that you're getting. The other is competition, right? You see that some products, depending on again what your offering is, that competition is selling at this level, you know that there is some validation there. So again, you're looking for signals that you've gathered, and to Tommy's point, you've got to be able to articulate what's the basis of you having confidence that a certain transaction is a certain dollar value for you.
So the first sanity test that an investor will do is he will start calculating these back of the envelope calculations, okay? And he will look at the number of transactions multiplied by your revenue model and see if it's worth, and see if there's growth, okay? And you need to fill in the blanks for him, okay? And you actually create the formula that directly correlates with your revenue model, okay? So revenue doesn't necessarily say anything. So even if I'll tell you 500, $500 billion market, you cannot translate it into your revenue model, okay? But if you say there are 15 million transactions monthly, and our business model is directly related to that transaction, okay? Now it's just a matter of how many transactions I can get, okay? That directly correlates into that formula that will fit into the back of the envelope and create that hockey stick, okay? This is also, I said, a great opportunity to show insight into your market and your domain expertise, okay? So you understand how it works, and don't commit to pricing, okay? Let the investor do the math, okay? Don't do the math for him. I don't like people doing the math for me because I immediately, you're talking from a position, and so don't give it up. This is an okay example from my company. By the way, it took us about 2 months to, I think, about 2 months to build that deck. Countless variations. I did the designs, Photoshop, everything, and it still looks it looks bad. I'll show you some good examples of somebody doing it on their own in the end. So we said here, our target markets are the defense market, so governments, airports, and international markets. And in small writing here, you can see hostile borders are over 30,000 kilometers long. Okay, these are the top 10 land borders, the aggregate kilometers of the top 10. And if you remember from my product slide, I showed you what a kilometer means for us. Okay, so you know that for 1 kilometer we sell 5 laser walls, 2 Spartans, 1 Micron, and one Skywatch. Okay, and we have 30,000 kilometers in the top 10 alone. And I usually, when I tell the story, and I say, you know, India is the #1 land border country. You know how long their borders are? 15,000 kilometers. So the #1 player, which we are already selling to, is holding 50% of the top 10. The rest of the 9 aggregate to the rest of the other 15. So this is a very strong story, I think. You know, people listen to that and say, ooh, nice. This is another great example for another SLP graduate, Erzar. I should have taken out the name, sorry. And we struggled a lot. They develop a SaaS platform for drones, for drone operators. And you know, he went the Google way, okay? Drone, market size, blah, 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 whatever number he came out. He said, look, it won't work. So let's talk about who your customers are, okay? Construction companies, the mining companies, the roofing companies. They say, okay, there's 700,000 companies out there. In a year, these companies generate 15 million drone projects a year, okay? An average ticket size of a drone project is about $500, okay? This is expected to grow twice in the next 2.5 years. And you know, if you aggregate those together, this is the amount of money that is on the table. And Erzar is in the middle of all of it, okay? So there is a huge insight, I think, in this slide as well. And we came up with a number, and we have a source. Very important. This source actually correlates with this number, and this is I think a number we sort of had from our experience. Okay. I think it's a great example of we struggle a lot with this. Yeah.
The 2x is a projected growth.
Exactly.
How do you?
We want to sell the growth, man. I mean,
so
this number is a multiplication of this.
So if I say 4x, there, how to? Is there any way to question it or the validity of it? Or
This is you know, your make or break your credibility. Okay, you put in a number. Somebody questions you. If you don't have a way to justify it, you're dead. Okay, so don't make up numbers. Okay, trust me. The business is hard enough and good enough without making up numbers. Okay. Okay. Any questions about that? Good. Go-to-market strategy. As I said, this is a very hard topic. I think it's very individual.
So in the previous slide, you don't get a sense of what is theirs and what is the rest.
Sorry?
Market share is missing.
We don't
grab it all.
I don't know.
100% is theirs.
I don't know. Market share is a function of time. Okay? Market share right now is 0. Market share in 10 years can be between 0 and 100%. Okay? I don't know. Depends on how good you are. So market share is not really an issue. It's not. I think it's not. This is the corporate way again. I mean, the corporate have experience with their companies. They're saying, okay, if we penetrate the market, on average, we get between 2 to 5% of the market. Okay? So they can now do. They have experience. They have data points to prove that. But for a startup, that's not relevant. This is the number that is really interesting. Okay? Actually, this is the number, the combination of those two, because they take a fee of that number times transactions.
Both are real, right?
What?
Both numbers are real, so you
Yeah.
hang your hats on those.
Exactly.
And I think it's also important to show that the market is expanding, because that gives you the opportunity to enter the market.
That's the
Because
kicker.
if the entire market is already taken by your 15 million projects, then you have to break into the market as opposed to getting in because there's space.
So I'm building up the case here for the growth. Okay. And this is, so, by the way, I don't know if you've seen this here. Can you read this? This is in the US alone. Okay, so you have 2x and another unknown variable because the rest of the world is even bigger than the US. Okay, so there's you know, this sort of subconscious messaging here. Let's move on. Go-to-market strategy. You need to answer in your presentation how you are going to acquire your first customer, because that's the biggest challenge seed fund companies have. Okay? Nothing, you know, look at investors. Investors see a very broad how do you say, cross section of early stage companies. And they can see something that you don't, that their perspective is something that you'll never have. A single investor is looking up, you know, or an entrepreneur is looking up to an investor, please give me money, versus an investor has so many companies begging for money. He can get a cross section of the entire industry. Okay, so and trust me, seed funding companies at this stage, customer acquisition or traction is the biggest challenge. Okay, and so you need to show what your strategy is to get that first customer. And this customer is not your friend, is not your family. Okay, these are not customers. These are guys who are doing you a favor. Third party, strangers, people you don't know, people who will, you know, you don't have any, you have fourth. In LinkedIn, when you look at those guys, they have four. You know, fourth, you have first, second, third, right? So these guys. In what channel do you have an unfair advantage? This is also very important. It's part of your secret sauce. The cost of acquisition analysis. I think this is, you know, you're not only showing how much or how you're going to find that guy, you're also showing how much it's going to cost you. Because, you know, everybody goes like, this is a typical startup mistake, okay, or a first-time entrepreneur mistake. You say, I need to raise 1.5 million in order to build my product and spend on marketing. So how much are you planning on spending on marketing? So $1 million. We really want to go aggressive. Look, marketing is not, you know, that's an arms race. Okay, if I spend $1 million, the other company will spend another $1 million, and you're fighting on the same bid. Okay, but if you are building a product that people will choose, not because you force-fed them, but because they choose the value proposition, blah, 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 then you go through it. And you need to show how much to get the viral spin rolling, or flywheel rolling, is you need to show you understand how much it's going to cost you, okay? Paid acquisition is the worst strategy ever, but sometimes it's necessary. Roy.
So we're talking about a real customer. Is there a big difference between beta and actual paying customer?
Yeah.
Beta free.
Yeah. Each one has its goal or its usage at the stage. So paid acquisition, for example, is a good strategy to get your product in beta. Okay? You can say, okay, I need to get those beta tests to get feedback, to get the lean startup, the build, measure, learn. I always get those wrong. This loop, I need to get it running. How do you do it? Paid acquisition, okay? These beta testers. But once you finish beta testing, you got all the feedback you need, you developed a new product. Now this is the product, okay? This is it, okay? Now the product needs to sustain itself without paid acquisition, okay? That's when paid acquisition doesn't make sense anymore. So raising $1 million just to get this doesn't make sense. I've seen a lot of people misuse this slide, and I gotta say, this slide can really harm you if you get it wrong. Okay, if you get it right, people say obviously, okay, of course. But if you get it wrong, you say he doesn't know what he's talking about. So make sure you know there is not a lot to gain here, but everything to lose in this slide. It's a very tricky slide. I don't have an example. Something I can say, wow, this blew my mind. Okay, everybody has its different approach. Okay, business, also known as revenue model. Okay, business model, JP explained it, the difference between revenue and business model. Okay, it's called business model slide, but it's actually focusing about your revenue. It's a very simple slide and usually self-explanatory. And I talked about it today with you and with Giri as well. about why is it self-explanatory. So if you describe yourself as an e-commerce website, how does an e-commerce website make money? Sales, direct sales, okay? And if you are a social media website or a platform, company, social media company, how does a social media company make money?
Ads.
Ads, exactly. And if you're a SaaS platform, how do you make money? Subscription, okay? These are, I wouldn't say ultimate truth, but this is logic, okay? You have to have, I find a lot of people come up and say, I'm a SaaS model, but I'm not doing subscription, I'm doing, I don't know what, okay? Or I am a social media platform doing credit approach. You know, people buy credit, and on some transactions that they do on the website, their credits get used. I said, I mean, why re-educate the people? People know, they already have these instincts, okay? We're the generation that lives on Facebook, and this is why it's very easy. So if you're a SaaS platform, just say subscription model. That's it, okay? Don't reinvent it, okay? Very important. Just one revenue stream. Just a second. Let me finish this point. People think more is more. Okay, more is better. So if I'm an online platform, a social media platform, I make money from ads. I sell my information. I have subscription. Come on. Get one, and then let's talk about the others. Okay. Usually, I always hear about selling data. That's the everybody thinks they're getting so much data that's so valuable that they're going to sell it to everybody. Okay. Everybody wants to buy that data. Your data is so valuable. Okay. If people come in and say, please give me your data, I'm willing to pay for it, add it to the slide. But unless you see that, forget about it. Here.
Yeah. So in the social media world, so it's always required to be like ads, or you can say creating user base is going to create a value for the company.
Yeah.
But it's
So,
not selling anything.
so that's metrics. So I'm not sure I want to go into this, but basically WhatsApp is a good example of it. WhatsApp became so big, or Facebook, okay, became so big.
WhatsApp, right? WhatsApp.
Yeah, WhatsApp became so big, and at some point, people kind of said, okay, look, you got to make money at some point. Please make money. They said, I don't know. We have 100 million users. Let's see. It's like a huge pole that somebody's holding. We don't know which revenue route we want to go. Okay, just throw it somewhere, and 100 million users falling it somewhere will create amazing revenue, whatever you do. Okay, and that's a customer acquisition strategy that is usually used for social media platforms, but you have to be the number one in order for it to work, okay? That's why you find very few investors that will invest in social media. It's almost like gaming. How do you know what a good game is? So Octopus Ventures is sector agnostic and wouldn't invest in two sectors. The first one was biotech, because capital intensive, very long cycles, and the success and failure rates are very well known and are very low. And the other one was gaming. And I said, why gaming? He said, because nobody knows what makes a good game. It's a flip of the coin, okay? And that's probably, I forgot the point that I wanted to make. But remind me what was it?
Social media.
So social media is the same thing. Exactly. The number of users. You will be big once you're big, but nobody will be able to project that you're big, because the adoption rate of, if you look at the adoption rate of social media per user, how many users or how many social media users have, you'll see the number is very few. People don't have enough time in the day to check on another social media network. Okay? They spend like 90% of their FaceTime, the mobile FaceTime, what they spend in Facebook. There is no 25th hour in the day to spend on another network and another network and another network. That's why you find very few investors that invest in that, you'll never get no in an investor meeting. You will always get, let's talk in 6 months, or when you have 100,000 users or 100 million users. Okay, you will never get a no, because nobody wants to miss out. Okay, nobody wants to miss out, but this is basically a no for you. Okay. They know that your chances of getting 100,000 users or a million users in the next 6 months is 0, okay, or almost 0. And so they say, maybe I'm wrong. You know, come back to me once you have these users, and you never get this, you never get back to them, and it's basically, you know, sorry.
No, just think five.
Sorry.
Time check.
Thanks. So 5 for the Q&A, right?
But I'm saying that maybe finish in maybe 10 minutes.
Sure. Okay.
Tell me, the second as bullet on your previous slide was kind of interesting.
Oh, don't commit to pricing. Yeah.
I was wondering
Pricing is a very tricky thing. You can most likely you'll get it wrong, either too high or too low, and especially if it's not tested. Pricing strategy is testing, okay, or benchmarking, and therefore don't commit in a pitch deck to pricing, because then you limit your investor's imagination. Okay, you fixate it on this, and if you got it wrong, he says he doesn't know what he's talking about. He has more experience than you in pricing. Trust me.
But other investors say, we don't believe your financials anyway, we just want you to give us something, or...
Financial is something completely different, okay? They want to see logic in financials, not pricing, not revenue, not numbers. Logic, structure. Trust me? What? Sorry?
pricing of product or subscription cost, because you should
Know your pricing, okay? Have an idea of what the pricing is going to be, but don't commit to it in a pitch deck, okay? That's what I'm saying.
Tom, quick one. We are assuming people have 0 customers when they are pitching this, because if you have a customer, they got to pay some pricing and such.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there is always an exception to whatever I'm
Sure.
saying. Okay, so it's yeah. But if you've proven your pricing and you know, and everybody, and you're moving into a very saturated market, that the pricing for your product is raises other questions, but the pricing is pretty limited. You won't charge a laptop $10,000 if Apple charges $2,000. You know that's the limit, okay? Because Apple is Apple, okay? It makes sense. Okay, this is very easy. Okay, in the solution slide, you already showed his business model. This is another interesting one. Okay, this is Airbnb for students. Booking fee, student, their commission, their revenue. Pretty straightforward, I think. And don't invent the wheel here. Just be very particular. They're committed to pricing because this is a Series A, by the way. This is a Series A company. Okay. Okay, competition. Very difficult slide. I think it's a very important slide as well. A lot of people, when I talk about this slide, they say it's so difficult, it's not worth the effort. But I think if you get it right, it's amazing. So the concept is to communicate 2 points. I know what my space is and who my competitors are, and I know how I differentiate from them. Okay, nobody wants to be head-on competing with a company that is well-funded, that's better funded than you, and 2 years ahead of you in the product development. Okay, nobody will invest in a company like that unless you're, I don't know what. The preferred method, is an XY. I'll show you a good example of it. Okay, I'm a big believer of this. Okay, and I think this company, this is the remittance company. Okay, they say they found 2 axes that they're competing, or they have an advantage. Okay, that's margin, and that's the ticket size. Okay, and they say in high margin, okay, we make higher margins than anybody else because we're pure online, whatever. Okay, they don't have any overheads, and we can even handle low ticket. So their target customers were these employees that earn 500 euros a month and send 400 back to their family, and they needed to have low fees, and they could make a lot of margins out of a low ticket size. Okay, and they actually positioned everybody else very well. They know what everybody else is doing, and they're here. Okay, you don't necessarily have to be here, but you have to be differentiated. The same Airbnb for students did the same thing. They're targeting students versus, that's students versus verified listing. Okay, Airbnb is very particular about verifying. There was a huge story about their videos and stuff like that. Versus, students. You have, on the other hand, Gumtree. That's basically like Craigslist in the UK. They're not verified. They take anything. You can post a fictional and they don't verify.
That's
So,
now owned by eBay, by the way.
Roadmap. Just cover the inflection points, okay? This is a very important. Product, R&D, product milestones, launches, funding milestones, revenue, when you expect to get revenue, hires is also very important, and go-to-market strategy milestones, okay? I think this is a very important thing. Don't only show future milestones. It's very important to show past milestones, to show execution and how cool you are. This is our roadmap that I came up with. It has a header, which is, I think, communicated a lot. So it says 0 to sales in less than a year. Okay, that was our message. Okay, that showed a lot of traction. Okay, these are the past milestones we had, and these are the 18 milestones that we're planning to do. And I didn't commit on a time. I just said in the next 18 months, this is what I'm planning to do. This is a really beautiful slide of Shrikant's. This is a good example. You know, my slide is me trying to be a designer and not having a PowerPoint, so I come up with this. Okay, Shrikant is a designer, and he came up with this. Okay, so I think it's a beautiful slide. Okay, just it doesn't matter what it's written; it's just beautiful. Okay. How much time do I have? Am I over?
Yeah, 7:45, almost, so maybe 5 more minutes.
Okay, I'll be quick. This is one thing, hockey stick, okay? And a lot of people think the financials, okay, so I'll show you my financials. I don't mind, I don't want to see in a pitch deck your financials. I can't read your finances in a pitch deck, okay? But I want to see a hockey stick, whatever you can show me, okay? And usually everybody goes with revenue, because revenue is going to grow. But you don't necessarily have to show revenue. You can also show a metric, okay? For example, this is my proudest creation, okay? I worked like 2 weeks on this slide alone, regardless of the financials that stand behind it. But what it has here is revenue from each product, and this line is kilometers covered, okay? As you can see, it's a recurring theme in my presentation, okay? I want to show that I'm going to get those 30,000 kilometers, okay? And this is the hockey stick. I wanted to show a hockey stick. I also communicated our burn rate, because this question always comes up, okay? And I think this shows a lot of insight into how I understand the market, okay? How a product is broken down, how much, how it correlates with our metrics, the growth, blah, blah, blah. I was pretty proud of it. But this slide is the bomb, okay? And I'll tell you a short story about this slide. A company came to us, to the fund. We didn't understand the deck. The deck was unreadable. There were ad tech doing some weird things with ad posted on the website to increase site, the time you spend on the site. I forgot the metric or how it's called, and we couldn't get it. But we got to this slide, and when they pitched it, they said, okay, 2012, we had $350,000 revenue. 2013, we had $4 million revenue. So already 11x growth, okay? We're pretty cool, right? They pitched to us in April 2014. They said, Q1, we just finished the Q1 audit, and we already have more than 4 million in Q1. Okay? And we said, okay. I mean, this company is growing like crazy, okay? And there is no financials here. There's just 3 numbers, okay? Dates, and the implication, okay? The message of growth. I think this, and we were going like crazy. So, wow. I mean, this company is really have the perfect market fit. The team, the message is we got this, okay? And I'll show you, there is nothing strong here, but you have to articulate the things that I mentioned in the beginning. And the reason I'm showing my team is because I have the names, without a picture because I'm looking, and I wanted to add these icons to show sort of the expertise of the team. So the CEO and the CTO are tech guys, engineers, and I'm the whatever that means, okay? So I'm not tech, basically. So we have the business side as well to the company, and we have really cool brands, Okay, we have Google, we have Qualcomm, we have whatever this is, and great universities, and that was our message to the team. I think this is a very easy slide. Last slide, the ask. Okay, you'd be surprised how many pitches end without they say, and that's what we do. Thank you very much. Okay, so this is a very easy slide as well. You need to show, this is the format, okay? How much do you raise? Is it a price round or a convertible? Okay, do you give equity or do you give a promise and a note? For what? And for how long? What's the runway? Okay, that's all it is, okay? If it's a price round, don't make the mistake of committing. Okay, that already puts you in a problem with the negotiations. The proceeds, okay, it's very easy, okay? The biggest mistake is to give marketing, okay? I remind you what we discussed earlier. The best thing to do is hire, because hiring is your biggest asset for a seed company. That's what you need. That's the biggest expense, trust me, and that's the most important. That's what will generate your growth, okay? This will kill your company. Okay? If you see somebody pitching marketing, it's an easy, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. And be specific and realistic to your phase, okay? Don't raise at a seed round, don't raise $7 million, okay? Know what your company and your space are raising, and know what you're spending. Don't spend at the Series A with a $500,000 ask. Don't hire somebody who's going to charge $300,000 salary because he's good. Trust me, there is nobody worth more than 3 other employees. Okay, maybe there is, but there are few of those. That's our slide. Okay, we are raising 1.25 for 12-month runway. These are the breakdown. You can see that you don't have marketing, you have operations. Okay, but when you look at operations, you have marketing in here with office expenses, IP, certification, and business development, and marketing. Okay, because it's a $20,000 marketing budget. Most of the money goes to HR. Okay, 2 last slides. Okay, I apologize. Thank you. General aesthetics and hygiene. Okay, very important. Tell the people what you're doing at the beginning of the pitch. Okay, I don't want to find out myself. Okay, I want to be told that you're a SaaS platform and you're operating in this space. I want to know that you are a hardware startup. I want to know what you're doing so I can grasp and I can understand you better. There is this notion of start with a question. Okay, start by saying, hi, my name is Tommy. I'm the CSO of Chrome Systems. Chrome Systems is a border defense startup developing state-of-the-art intrusion detection systems based on IoT and drone technology. Okay. Okay. Now everybody knows what sector I am, what industry I'm in. That's I'm hardware. I'm doing drones. I'm doing IoT. Okay. Don't leave it to the end. Okay. PowerPoint. That's a dead giveaway that you're out of money. You cannot even pay $500 to somebody to do your slide better. Okay, if I had more time, and Ashish will allow me, I'll show you how a PowerPoint versus our initial deck and a deck that I'm working now with a designer, how it looks like. No random stock photos. They make also a bad impression. These of people that say, these pictures. Our business, our customers like us. And you have somebody like that. That's too salesy. Okay, and icons and diagrams, no text. Okay, you saw my icons, diagrams. Okay, these things they really tell more than you can actually read. Statements, not sentences. Okay. Banking, the banking system is plagued by legacy. Okay, system, whatever. That's a statement. Okay, forget about if it's right or wrong. And don't tell stories. It takes too long. Less is more. Slide, I recommend doing the consulting approach. Okay, you can see in our roadmap. Okay, I wanted people to know this. Okay, so I've stated it. Okay, have something to say it, put it in the deck. Okay? If you don't want to say it, don't put it in the deck. Okay? Don't leave it for the discussion. Okay? If you want, open a different presentation. Okay? It just look. I've seen somebody who say, I need your 14 slide deck. I say, yeah. They send me a 60 slide deck. I say, why do you have 60? Oh yeah, it's 14 and another 45 that are appendixes. Okay, that's the last slide. Bottom line. Okay, remember the goal of your presentation. It's to get you to the next step. How do you do it? You sell the growth. Okay, it's all about the story, and a good deck is not going to get you to the next step. It's going to help you communicate and build you up to that. Okay, and improve you. And this is the ugly truth. Okay. Once you have spent this money and wasted time in practicing on it, you will rarely use it. That's the most ridiculous part. Once you have a good deck, okay, you use it once, and then the network effect begins to kick in, and you know, people want to sit down for coffee. Now tell me about the company, okay? Then you're not going to open up the laptop. And so once you have a good deck, this is something that happens a lot. Okay, you get traction, you get a lot of investors' interactions, and it becomes a conversation. But since you built the deck and you worked on it for 2 months, you have the story already ingrained in you. So